Hey guys, what's up? It's Zyflin here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the best Incarnon melee weapon in the game, and they are the Dual Ichor Incarnon. Now, what makes the Dual Ichor Incarnon so special? That's what we're going to be learning about in today's video. So if we come to the arsenal, or you can go to Cavalier, or wherever you want, we're going to take a little read at the evolution. So evolution 1, Incarnon form. So reaching 6 times combo and then heavy attack to activate Incarnon form. So you actually have to build up before you can activate the Incarnon form. You need to get a 6 times combo multiplier. It reads, kills create a toxin damage field, which is very important. Keep that in mind. You get 100% more melee damage, more sprint speed, and more parkour velocity, which doesn't sound too brilliant to begin with. But then if we go ahead and we take a look at the Evolution 2 upgrades, we have Ronin's Rush, which is increased damage by 90 on striking target with final move of neutral combo. You get more attack speed for 33 seconds. This is the one that I like to use. Or we've got Alchemist Wrath, so this increases your damage by 90 as well, but you get 5 additional combos on targets affected by Toxin. This just increases your combo count a little bit more whenever the enemy is affected by Toxin, which is quite easy because the Dual Ichor is Toxin base. And we also have that Toxin damage field whenever we get a kill. For Evolution 3, we've got 3 choices. I like to run Resolute Force, as this just gives me more combo duration. But if you're using the primary or secondary Dexterity Arcane, you can go ahead and run Aurican Reach. This is just going to give you more range. We've got Swift Break. This gives you more heavy attack wind-up speed, but I don't recommend this because you can get this from Amalgam Organ Shatter. And then last but not least, we have Evolution 4. So we've got Absolute Valor, which increases your status chance by 34%. I'll move on to why I think this is the best one in a second. We've got Poison Parasite. So on killing an enemy with +3 toxin stacks, you get +33 health regen per second for 9 seconds. So I don't like this one because it's kind of too conditional. They need to have 3 toxin stacks and you're killing enemies a lot faster than you're applying toxin stacks. So I tend to stay away from this one, although there is the health regen there, which is fine. It just really depends on the type of content that you're doing. I like to run Rolling Guard and stuff like that, so having the regen my health is never really a concern for me anyway. I just roll and then I can't take any more damage anymore. And then finally, we've got Universal Readiness, so collecting ammo grants 5 melee combo counter. Not the best considering how fast we can actually build combo nowadays, so I tend to stay away from this one as well. So increasing your status chance by 34% just seems like the go-to. Now, another really important part of this weapon is having the melee influence arcane. So melee influence on electric status, you've got a 20% chance for elemental melee status effects to apply to enemies within 20 meters for 18 seconds. Basically, the status effects that you've got on your melee weapon are just going to spread to all the enemies around. And you combine this with the fact that whenever you get a kill, you're leaving a toxin damage field, you're spreading a lot of damage across a lot of enemies. So the mandatory mods just to make the weapon deal more damage are as follows. We've got Crossing Snakes in the stance slot because this has a good neutral combo. And if you guys remember, on striking targets with final move of neutral combo, we get more attack speed. So we're just basically holding down E while standing still. We're getting more attack speed and we're hitting the enemies a lot. We've got Condition Overload on here to increase our base damage. Now, if you don't like running Condition Overload because you don't like priming, you can go ahead and use Prime Pressure Point. If you don't have Condition Overload or Prime Pressure Point, you can use regular Pressure Point. We've got Organ Shatter on here for more crit damage. If you want to use Amalgam Organ Shatter, that's fine as well. That's going to increase your heavy attack wind-up speed. We've got Weeping Wounds for more status, scaling with our combo count. Very important on this build. Blood Rush for basically the same thing, just with our crit chance. Also very important. Pretty much very important on every melee build, to be honest. Got a Prime Smite mod on here, and this is just to give us more damage. This is like a multiplicative mod, which is just going to increase the effectiveness of our damage over time effects, which we do have a lot of on this build. We'll talk about what you can use to replace this a little bit later, but if you can run it, I definitely recommend running it because it's just going to give you a big damage boost. So based on our Dual Ichor, we have toxin damage. So if we go ahead and we throw on another elemental mod, take for example Shocking Touch, because we need the electric status to actually make use of melee influence, what's going to happen is that toxin damage is going to combine with our electric damage to make corrosive. So what we want to do is we want to make viral damage. And the reason that viral damage is kind of the go-to is simply because the procs from viral are going to increase the amount of damage that you deal to enemies. But what we also want to keep in mind is that we want our electric status to proc more than our viral status because we want this effect from melee influence as often as possible. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to run unranked toxin and cold mods, so then our Shocking Touch or our electric damage procs more often than the viral. So that's Virulent Scourge and Vicious Frost, both unranked. And you can see the weighting of your different status effects by just hover overing the status number here. So you can see chance for each status effect type per hit. We've got a 26.1% for the electric, a 19.8 for the viral, and then our IPS is all quite low with only 10.7 on slash, 4.5 on impact, and 2.6 on puncture. But that's a totally a-okay spread of like status effects. So we went ahead and we spawned in level 215 corrupted heavy gunners with the steel path modifier turned on, and all we're going to do is we're just going to walk up to one of the enemies. We're just going to hold down E, and as you can see, we're dealing a lot of electric here, and all of these status effects are being spread across all of the enemies. We haven't even got to our 6 times combo yet, what we just did there now, and all the enemies are basically already dead. Pretty crazy, right? What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and spawn them back in again. We're going to use our Incarnon form by doing a heavy attack. Then we're just going to hold down E again, and as you can see, we're dealing a lot more damage this time around, and the enemies are dying way quicker just because we have this Incarnon form active. So this melee weapon is essentially just a nuke. So another really crazy thing we can do is we can make use of Rhino's roar ability and also Volt's shock trooper augment for his first ability to get even more damage out of these. So this might be ideal if you don't like running the Prime Smite mods, because roar basically does what the Prime Smite mods do. So in this case, what you would do is you would go ahead, take off the Prime Smite mod, go ahead, move Virulent Scourge and Vicious Frost to the left, make sure Shock and Touch is still on, and then go ahead and just type in Electric. You can throw on Voltaic Strike or Focus Energy. I recommend Voltaic Strike. Just go ahead and throw that on, and that's going to give you even more status chance, and it's going to give you more chance to proc Electric. Your melee influence is going to proc even more often. And remember, Shock Trooper gives you bonus electric damage, and because we have Electric as its solo element on the Dual Ichor, there's no risk of it combining with anything, right? So it's not like we're going to accidentally mess up our elemental combos. So I've got Shock Trooper active and I've got Roar active. So I'm just going to go ahead, do the same thing, just walk up to the enemies and just hold E. And what you're going to see is we're going to deal even more damage to all these guys, a lot more electric procs and all that there good stuff, and everybody's dying way quicker. And that's without Incarnon form, and that's without Molt Augmented stacks. Alright, so I've gone ahead and I've got 250 Molt Augmented stacks. I've got Speed turned on, Shock Trooper turned on, Roar turned on. We're going to go ahead and we're going to build up our Incarnon form as well. But as you can see, even without the Incarnon form, all of these enemies are just dying extremely quickly. We're at 4 times combo right now. We just go ahead, hold E again. We turn on the Incarnon mode. Let's go ahead, spawn in more enemies actually. So they're actually still getting affected by the previous group of enemies, like all the procs and stuff like that. And look how fast they all die. Level 215 corrupted heavy gunners, guys. Extremely strong melee weapon, extremely strong like nuking capabilities from a melee weapon. And we're not even running anything like primary dexterity or secondary dexterity. I'm assuming somebody that's going to go for the Dual Ichor's Incarnon, like they're going to want to run those 2 arcanes, because melee is more than likely going to be your main source of dealing damage. It's a very fun playstyle, and I especially enjoy it with Volt because of Shock Trooper just merging very well with the whole melee influence stuff. The extra damage on the electric and all that there stuff. It's just a super fun build. Super fun way to play melee as well. You can make it even better by using the right companion. You could bring like a Doriga to spread viral and stuff like that for you as well. But yeah, it's just the best freaking Incarnon melee in the game without a doubt in my mind. There's no real reason to deviate from a build like this. If you get lucky enough, you could go ahead and get a really strong Riven for it as well, because the disposition is quite high. Maybe want like melee damage, maybe some status, maybe some electric, something along those lines. There's probably better Rivens out there for the Dual Ichor, but it's just down to you. As long as you don't mess up your elements, you'll be fine. But yeah, like I can't stress enough, with this final evolution, make sure that you're using Absolute Valor, because this is where the majority of the damage actually comes from. It's the fact that you can apply those status effects so often. That's what makes the Dual Ichor Incarnon super good. Of course, you could run Poison Parasite if you really wanted to, but Absolute Valor, in my opinion, is just so much better that it's just not worth running Poison Parasite. And because the fact that this is conditional, meaning you have to have those free Toxin stacks, which, don't get me wrong, is easy to achieve, but it forces you into running Toxin, and that's not always the best element. You could argue that Melee Influence forces you into running Electric, and that's not always the best element, but because of the added spreading bonus and the fact that you already have Toxin damage on the kills, Melee Influence, in my opinion, seems like a no-brainer. I would just run the Absolute Valor and status build, and then you're pretty much good to go. So that's it for the best melee Incarnon weapon in the game. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, as it helps the channel a lot. If you want to get early access to my videos, you can become a channel member by pressing the join button beneath this video for $5 a month. Or if you want early access to other cool resources and behind the scenes content, you can subscribe to my Patreon for less than $5 a month. Consider clicking on the video on screen, and I'll see you guys in the next one.